Hello everyone and welcome to Orf. My name is Philip and thank you for stopping by. And there's this album and I want to view it, but I want to view it like more than once, so I guess you could call it a review, if you will. That's not what that means. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Bring Me the Horizon album, Post-Human Next-Gen. And to be completely honest, I wasn't really super excited for this one, because the previous Post-Human album didn't really fit the bill for me. Now, Bring Me the Horizon's transition from their older screamo sound into their newer, more modern radio rock sound actually hasn't really been necessarily bad. With That's the Spirit, I did think the songs were quite simple. However, I think the album had a very cohesive design. It really had this sort of concept to go with it. And in the case of Ammo, I still don't know how to pronounce this album. I thought the band was getting even more creative with this more pop techno influence of their sound. And it kind of served as an example of the fact that if you're a metal band transitioning into a softer sound, there are ways to successfully do that. And Ammo was actually a great example of that. Moving forward though with music to listen to, blah blah blah, and the first Post-Human record, while not bad, I think their experimentation didn't always work with these two records. And that's kind of what I was expecting on this new Post-Human album, Next-Gen. To be honest, the singles of this album didn't really blow me away, and I also noticed that this album had 16 tracks, much longer than their previous ones, and yet still clocked in under an hour, which sort of gave me the assumption that they would just continue making these short tracks, experimenting a little bit, but for the most part sticking to their techno metal sound and just sort of making some tracks that would meet their quota. Because yeah, with Bring Me the Horizon being such a huge force in the metal community, it seems like they're basically safe when it comes to selling tickets for their next shows. And with that said, it would be very easy for this band to just sort of keep making very mid tracks because they're gonna sell tickets to their shows anyway, as long as they keep playing Shadow Moses, Can You Feel My Heart, etc., etc. However, while I think Post-Human suffers in a few ways, that wasn't really the case. And in Next-Gen, I think we actually see Bring Me the Horizon sort of pushing the boundaries in a way that is a little bit more successful than their previous two records. I actually think Bring Me the Horizon was able to sort of capture that feeling of escaping reality in a way that doesn't alienate listeners while at the same time not coming off as dull. I was actually surprised to see Utopia and Kool-Aid getting some of the highest ratings out of any of the songs on this album, because to me, those were kind of some of the most boring for me, despite the heavy ending in Kool-Aid. Yeah, to be honest, this album doesn't really start off with a lot, but I think it builds at a consistent rate. Because when we get into Top 10 Statues, Limousine, Dark Side, and A Bullet With My Name on It, yeah, I'm kind of having a blast. And I feel like I see a lot of groups trying to incorporate this digital sound lately, where you'll have a track and just randomly in the middle or towards the end, you will include an oversaturation of
synthesizers
and distorted voice, just for the sake of being modern, being futuristic, and throwing in this trope of AI taking over. But when Bring Me the Horizon does it, for example, at the end of A Bullet With My Name on It, not only does it fit really well with the track, but it actually just sounds really good in its own right. And actually, this electronic sort of sound that they're going for is not really the only genre they attempt to incorporate in this record. While it feels a bit like some of the features are a little bit underplayed here, they're usually done kind of tastefully. If I'm going to talk about any other low points, it's probably going to be Strangers, honestly. I think the chorus doesn't hit really well and sounds a little bit rudimentary for me. And I would actually say the same for Die For You as well. Also, it seems like the transitions aren't always necessary, especially with the first track on the album, Dream Seeker, and this PUSS-E track kind of kills the energy at a point that's a little bit too close to the end for that to be happening for me. But I am happy to say Dig It brings a pretty heavy close to this record in a pretty tasteful way. Up until about the 6-minute mark. I don't really know what's happening in the end of this track. I mean, I get it. Of course, it's related to probably the girl on the album cover, but I don't think that was even necessary to give this album the feeling that it's kind of bringing you to another world, because it actually does that pretty well. Yeah, Post-Human Next-Gen actually kind of exists as an experience and
not just a
mishmash of radio rock Bring Me the Horizon tracks. The lyricism can be a little bit cheesy at times, but this album does have impact at a lot of different points. While there are a few points on the album that it does feel like Bring Me the Horizon is just sort of paying the bills, so to speak, it feels like the band was trying a little bit harder with this one. I mean, it's a narrative that I'm not going to find myself listening to too much, but I can definitely recommend it to people because honestly, I thought I was going to dislike this album. The singles were some of my least favorite tracks on here. The album artwork is pretty ugly. And again, I feel like this sort of theme is just so cheesy most of the time. And it still kind of is here, but the song quality is pretty good. I feel like I'm pretty happy giving Posthuman Next Gen a solid B, and I must say I was pleasantly surprised with this one. So there's my review for Posthuman Next Gen by Bring Me the Horizon, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will read all of them, I promise. And with that said, I hope you all have a fantastic evening, stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.